The funeral hall was filled with silence as mourners wept. A little girl lay in her coffin, and at her side, her German shepherd refused to move. But when a group of bikers arrived and discovered the truth behind the dog's loyalty, the entire crowd gasped in shock. The church was cloaked in silence, its air heavy with grief. Rows of mourners filled the pews, their heads bowed, eyes glistening with tears. Inside lay the little girl, her golden hair brushed neatly, a pink dress folded carefully around her fragile body. Pearls rested against her neck, but no jewel shone, brighter than the innocence now lost. She looked as though she was only sleeping, her cheeks still tender with youth. At her side lay a figure no one could ignore. A German shepherd, his massive frame curled against the coffin, head resting gently beside her tiny hand. His chest rose and fell with quiet sighs, but his eyes remained fixed, unblinking, as if waiting for her to stir, and no amount of coaxing could move him. The mourners wept at the sight. Grief was expected from people, but from a dog, it felt like heartbreak made flesh. Long before this day of mourning, the girl and her German shepherd had been inseparable. From the moment he padded into her life as a clumsy pup, he had become her shadow. Wherever she went, he followed, her constant guardian, her loyal playmate, her silent confidant. She would giggle as he chased after Bubbles in the yard, his paws skidding wildly across the grass. At night, he lay at the foot of her bed, lifting his head each time she stirred, ready to protect her from whatever dreams might frighten her. To the family, he was more than a pet. He was her protector, her best friend. The mourners remembered those scenes vividly, and perhaps that was why his grief cut so deeply now. The shepherd hadn't eaten since the coffin arrived. He ignored the bowls of food placed near him, refusing even water. Instead, he pressed closer, nose nudging her, still hand as though begging her to wake. His devotion was unshakable, his love unending. Even in death, he would not leave her side, for loyalty had bound them beyond life itself. The funeral service had just begun when the heavy doors at the back of the hall creaked open. Heads turned instantly. A group of bikers strode inside, their leather vests dark against the somber light, boots echoing sharply across the floor. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and whispers followed quickly after. Their appearance was jarring against the black suits and dresses of the mourners. Tattoos stretched down their arms, chains clinked at their sides, and their weathered faces carried the weight of lives lived on the edge. Children clutched at their mothers, and elderly guests stiffened in unease. The mourners exchanged anxious glances. Why were they here? No one seemed to know. The family hadn't invited them, and their presence cast a shadow of suspicion over the already heavy room. The shepherd stirred, lifting his head from the coffin. His eyes locked on the newcomers, his body tense, his growl faint but unmistakable. The air thickened with unease. Whatever reason these men had for being here, it was clear they were not ordinary mourners. The room fell into a hushed silence as the bikers moved closer to the coffin. Their heavy boots struck the floor like drumbeats, each step echoing through the hall. Faces in the crowd tightened with unease. Some mourners even edged back, unsure of what was about to unfold. The German shepherd rose from his place beside the girl, fur bristling, muscles tense. A deep growl rumbled in his chest, sharp and unrelenting. He stepped forward, planting himself between the coffin and the men, his eyes burning with warning. The sight made several people gasp. This was no ordinary dog's reaction. The lead biker paused, his weathered face softening as he raised his hands in calm surrender. But the dog didn't budge. His growl deepened, echoing through the silent hall. Mourners shifted nervously, some expecting a clash, others ready to intervene. The priest cleared his throat, uncertain if he should step forward. The tension was unbearable, as though every soul in the room was holding its breath, waiting to see if the loyalty of one dog would ignite a storm. The lead biker finally lowered himself to one knee, his eyes fixed not on the mourners, but on the German shepherd guarding the coffin. His voice, rough from years on the road, softened to a near whisper. "Easy, boy, we're not here to hurt her." The shepherd's growl lingered, but his ears twitched at the tone. The man slowly extended a gloved hand, not to touch, but to show peace. Then he looked up at the stunned crowd. "You don't know us," he admitted, but she did. That little girl saved my life once." Gasps rippled through the hall. The biker's eyes glistened as he continued. "Months ago, I was in an accident. I could have died on that roadside. But she stopped, called for help, and stayed until I was safe. Her dog never left her side. I swore that day I'd repay her somehow." He glanced back at his brothers, who stood solemn and silent. "We're here to honor her, and to stand by this loyal friend who refuses to leave her now." The hall was silent as the biker's leader spoke, but the shepherd wasn't done. He pawed at the coffin, whining low, his eyes darting between the mourners and the girl's still form. It was as if he was begging them to notice something they had overlooked. Point one of the bikers stepped forward, kneeling beside the dog. His voice was careful, respectful. "Let him show us." The dog pressed his nose against the girl's wrist, then whimpered louder, pawing again at the wooden edge. Confused murmurs filled the air until another man gasped. "Look!" Hidden beneath the cuff of the girl's sleeve, faint bruises marked her delicate skin, signs no one had spoken of, signs that told a story very different from the one people believed. The crowd shifted, shock spreading like wildfire. The shepherd barked sharply, as if confirming what their eyes now saw. Tears welled in the family's eyes, but anger too. A realization that her death carried a truth far darker than grief had allowed them to see. The dog hadn't just been mourning. He had been protecting her secret. Mourners shifted uncomfortably, some covering their mouths in disbelief, others whispering through tears. The German shepherd stood tall, chest heaving, as if daring anyone to deny what he had shown. His loyalty had spoken louder than words ever could. The lead biker rose slowly, his jaw tight. He turned to the grieving family and said, "She saved me once. Now it's our turn to protect her memory, and to make sure the truth isn't buried with her." His voice trembled with conviction, and his brothers nodded in solemn agreement. The dog's growl softened as he stepped closer to the bikers. He sniffed the man's hand, then allowed him to kneel beside the coffin. It was as if the shepherd understood. These men were allies, not intruders. Together, the bikers and the family formed a silent pact. Justice would be pursued. Her story would not end here. And by her side, the loyal dog finally found new guardians to share his unshakable burden of love. As the service came to an end, the German shepherd returned to his place beside the coffin, lowering his head gently against the wood. His body trembled with exhaustion, but his eyes stayed open, refusing to leave her even in the final moments. The bikers stood nearby like silent sentinels, their presence no longer feared but respected. Where once the mourners saw intimidating strangers, they now saw protectors, men bound not by blood, but by loyalty to the girl who had touched their lives. When the coffin was carried out, the shepherd walked beside it, each step heavy with grief but steady with purpose. The bikers flanked him, forming a shield of respect as the family followed behind. No one watching could hold back their tears. That day, the girl's story didn't end with sorrow. It sparked a promise. Her dog's devotion and the bikers' vow became her legacy. Love, loyalty, and truth had risen from tragedy, proving that even in death, the bonds of the heart are eternal.